let me come back to my project here. We can close these URLs, also close the views. We have tested that. The one we did not test is the one for the login because we have not connected our front end. That's what will help us to test this. Close these views and also close these serializers. We can also close the settings. That's all. Close down everything here. Then I'm going to open up my terminal again. While this one is running, I'm going to open up another terminal. So for this terminal, this is where we are going to start creating our first thing we're going to do is to do npm create space vite, then at latest enter. Then it will ask us to put in our project name. For this one, I'm going to use Frontend. Then it will ask me to select the framework. We are using React. And it also asks me to select the variant. We are using JavaScript. Enter. Okay, we have created that. Let's seed into Frontend. Then do npm install. Bring this up so you can see what's going on there. The npm install is done installing. Clear this up. Now if I open up here, you're going to see we have front end, and inside our front end we have our front end setup with React. We have the package.json. Let me close this so we can see. We are using Vite as our build. We have all these dependencies. React have installed, React DOM has installed, other dependencies have installed. Now close this up. We need to install more dependencies like the Axios and the JWT decode. And to do that, I will do npm install Axios, then JWT-decode, enter. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do is to install the React router DOM. Install -router DOM, enter. Okay, so the packages have been installed successfully. So if we run npm run dev now, our project will work. Yeah, as you can see, we are using 5173. But let's go back to here. You'll see we'll just be seeing like a Vite plus React project. Nothing is set up yet. But now we'll start building, changing all these things you're seeing here. Let's close down our terminal. Can leave that so we can start building. Our source is there. We have access. Okay, so for this, my app.css, I don't need it. Yeah, we can just move to recycle bin. So for this index.css, I'm going to just remove everything here. Paste this. This is the one that we are going to use. The settings I have here. Save. So if we go back here now, we are going to see this is showing this way. Remove this one. First thing I'm going to do inside here, in my source, I'm going to create another folder. We call it components. This is where it's going to have all our components. I'm also going to create another one inside our source. We'll call it pages. That's for our pages. Then create another folder for our css styles. So inside this front end here, I'm going to create a .env file, and inside the .env file, I'm going to add our Vite API URL. So call this one to be Vite API _URL. We're going to set it to be localhost. This is the URL of our front end, just like that. Vite API. Okay, close this down. Now the next thing I'm going to do inside this source, I'm going to create another file. For this one, I'm going to call it our token.js. So I'm going to export our local variables for the local storage of our tokens. You know, we are going to store our tokens in our local storage. So I'm going to export a variables for them. The first one I'm going to do is to do export const. Let's call it access underscore token. For this one, I'm going to set it to be equals to small letter access. Nope, not access token, just access this way, because that's the way I handled it in my backend. Refresh token. For this one, I'm also going to set it to be refresh. And last but not the least, we are going to set the one for our Google. Const Google underscore access token, set it to be Google underscore access token, just like that. Okay, so our token.js is done. The next thing I'm going to do inside this source again, I'm going to add an API.js file to be able to get our API. So what I'm going to do here is first of all import Axios from Axios, just like that. Then we will import the access token, import access token just from .token. Then I will create const my API URL, and inside this my URL I will do slash choreo, then slash, no, before that I will do dash APIs, then slash AWBO, then slash, I think it's backend slash rest, then dash API dash BE, then slash v1.0, just like that. No, I don't need to close it this way. This is very, very important. I'm going to make this code available on my GitHub, but just make sure you don't make mistake with this URL, as if you do, you're going to have problem connecting your backend and your frontend together. So what we are doing here basically is to connect our frontend and backend together and have them have a kind of interaction. So that's why I'm setting the API URL using the correct APIs abo backend rest API b2/v1 version. So the next thing I'm going to do is to set the const for our API, and I will use Axios. Then I will use .create, and inside here I will set my base URL. My base URL, I'm gonna import .meta, then .env, then remember we set our backend URL as vite API underscore URL in our .env file, question mark, then import it again, API. We are now syncing it with the API URL of this. This is our base URL. Now I'm going to create an interceptor to attach the tokens to request headers. So for this interceptor, I'm going to use this const API I've created here. Just do this the same way. But for my config, what I'm going to do, instead of doing it this way, what I'll do basically is inside here, I'm going to, nope, let's do this. But I'm going to use an arrow function instead. Inside this arrow function, I will do const access token, but instead of this, I'm going to do local storage.get item. Remember, we set our access token in our local storage. Then I will do if access token config.headers.authorization equal to bearer, then access token. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do now is to check for the Google access token as well. And to do that, I will create another const here, const Google access, then token here dot get item. But for instead of using access token here, I'm going to use Google access token, just like that. Then I will also do if Google access token, then config the headers. But instead of doing it this way, I'm going to use a different pattern. Do X, then dash Google, just like that, access dash token, then Google access token S dash. Thereafter, I will go ahead and return config, comma, come below and error. We'll go ahead and return promise.reject, and let's export this our API, default API. Okay, so this is basically what we are doing here. Very simple logic, connecting our backend, our frontend together. And let me save. We have created our token and also created the API.js. Okay, so now let's start building our front end. Close this. The first thing I'm going to do is to set up our navbar, and to do that, inside our component, I'm going to create a navbar.js, and what I'm going to do here is to first of all import React from React. Then I will also import link from React router DOM. Then inside is my assets. I'm just going to add the logo and the background for the header that I used. Okay, so I will import the logo, import logo from our assets, logo.png. Then I'm also going to set up a styles. For the styles, I'm not showing you guys that so that we'll just save time. I'm only showing you guys a JavaScript. In our styles.size folder, I'm going to create a new file. Let's call it navbar.css so that I can import it properly here. Then /navbar.css. Okay, so I'm just going to set up let's change this to use the double brackets. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is to create a function navbar. Inside is our function. Close this first. I'm gonna do return. Okay, so let's just put this here. This is just a basic stuff, but I'm gonna change the classes. For this one, the navbar class name here is fine. I'm going to change this one to be navbar-logo link. That's what I used in the CSS that I'm going to put there. Then for the class name here, I'm also going to change this to be navbar-logo. Now for this link here, I have two different set of links, the one in the left and in the one in the right. This one is going to be navbar-menu, then -left. Okay, and change this one to be Y, since it is Y that I use in the one I showed you guys. Why this one can be about, it doesn't really matter matter though, but I just wanted to make sure I replicate the exact same thing of what I showed you guys when I was doing the introduction of the video, why this one can maintain contact. Okay, so I can just duplicate this so you will not waste time. Change this one to be right, this one is going to be log out, this one is going to be login, while this one is going to be register. I'm going to add a class name here. For the logout and the register, they are going to use the same class name because it's a normal button. So in my CSS, I call it button link, whereas this one, I'm just going to call it to be button dash link login. This one does not have a background and a border in it for the login. So what I can do, this is not going to work unless I add it and sync this, but let's go ahead and export default navbar, save this. Now in our app.js, I'm going to do some things, but before that, in this CSS, paste this. This is the CSS, save it up, close it. Now in our app.js, close this asset, app.js here. There are some things I need to make changes to. The first thing, we don't need all of this anymore. In fact, let me just remove this. Let's import React from React. Then the next thing I'm going to do, just import most of the things I will need. I will need browser router. Then I will also need route. I will also need the route itself. Then I will also use navigate. We'll be using them one after the other. We might not use navigate immediately. Just wanted to just set up something basic. The only thing we have right now is navbar. So I'm going to import our navbar from our components so that inside my function here, I can remove all of this. Remove this, let it be empty like that. What I will do is inside here, I'm going to create a div. I don't need to put any class. Inside this div, I will add a browser router. You know what? Let's remove, we can just leave all of this. We don't have them imported yet or set up yet, but my tab line helped me to put that. The first thing is the navbar that I want it to be outside of the routes. But the next thing I'm going to add here, so that we'll not have issue with the links we have set up, I'm going to add a route for not found. So for this one, I can change this to be all. So you can check for all. Anything that has to do with all, it will just return it as not found. But before we save this, I'm going to come to my pages. Inside my pages, I will create a new file and call it notfound.jss. So that inside here, I will, okay, let's also create the CSS. Let's call it notfound.css. Let me just paste this here. This is my CSS settings for that. Close it. We are done with that. So for the notfound.js, what I'm going to do is come down. First of all, let's import the CSS -- then styles not found.css, so that here I'll create a function not found. In the function, I will do return this, but for the class name, we can leave it as not found. 404 page not found. Sorry, the page you're looking for doesn't exist. We can just leave it this way. Okay, so what I will do is go ahead and also export this not found, so that if I come here, I can go ahead and import. Nope, we don't have home. There's nothing like home there. We'll import not found, so that inside here, I'm going to change this to be not found. Save. Now, if we go back here, let's see. You can see we have a beautiful navbar showing up. You can see if I come here, the home, we have not set up the home, so everything is still showing page 404 not found, even the login, logout, everything. Now we are making progress. Let's close the notfound.js. We are done with that. The next thing we are going to do, can leave this open. We'll still come back to the navbar.js. The next thing I'm going to set up now is to set up our header, which is going to be in our home page. So let's come back to the components.js. I will create a new file and call it header.js. Now inside the header.js, I will import React. I'm also going to set up, let's set up the CSS also, header.css. Okay, paste this my CSS here. This is what I have. Save, close this down. Okay, so we'll import, nope, we have imported that already. We'll import our /styles, but instead of this, we'll import header.css. Close this. Now, the next thing I'm also going to import is the background image that I used. So I'm going to call it BG woman because it's a woman. And for the BG woman, I'm going to import it from then slash assets slash the image is called BG dash woman dot, I think is JPG. Now let's do const header. For this one, I'm going to create arrow function, and inside here I'm going to do return. No. I'm not going to use my tab line. What you're asking me to return is too much. Okay, so for this my return, what I'm going to have here is you're going to use the header. Return this first and see. Okay, so inside the header, what do I have? I have the image BG woman, background woman. Then for the class you're saying, but my own class is just header dash BG. This is good. For this one, I'll add another div. Inside this div, I'm gonna now add this h1 that came here, but I'm going to change the content. Indite. This one is going to have a class name of header dash content. Okay, I don't need to add any class here. So I'm going to change this to be put your money to work. Let me add a h3. For the h3, I'm going to have it as buy from us now. Lastly, I will add a button. For the button, I'll start buying. This one can be capital later. Okay, so I'll go ahead and export this, export our header. Just a very simple basic stuff. Now I will come to my pages. I'll create another page. We'll call it home.jss. Close this down. So as usual, we'll also import React from React. Import header, because this is where I'm going to import the header. Const home, do return, yeah, this way. We don't need to add this h1, just this. Then we'll go ahead and export our home so that in our app.js I can import the home here, import home, so I can add another route here. Yeah, just this way. Now if I come back here and we'll go to home, so you can see we are making progress gradually. Now the next thing I'm going to set up is our login forms. As you can see, nothing is happening here. We do not have any login form, and to do that we're going to go back here. Let's close the home.js. We don't need it again. We are done with this one. Come back here. If I come to my components here, for our form, I'm going to create an auth form.js. I'm just going to set up everything I need to set up for this form once and for all. First thing I'm going to do, import our API. You remember we set up the API. Okay, so import API from API here. Okay, the next thing I'm also going to import is use state. We are going to use state here. Use state. Okay, from React. And another thing I'm going to use is also navigate. Use navigate. No, this is wrong. Let's do use navigate, just like that from the React router DOM. Okay, so let's also import the access token and also the refresh token. Access token. So we'll do access token, then refresh token from token. Now let's go to our styles and open up another file. We'll call it auth form.css. Paste my CSS. Like I said, I'm not showing that part of the code. It's going to take so much time. I have already set up that. The code is going to be available on GitHub. I don't mind sharing the wonderful UI with you guys to play around with and get familiarize yourself with it. Let's close this down and go ahead and import the CSS. Import -- styles. Nope, not that. We'll import auth form.css. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to import is the Google image. So I'm going to import Google, call it Google from Google/assets Google.png. I think that's what it is. Everything looks good to go. Now inside this our form, the first thing I'm going to do is to create a const auth form, but I'm not using require here. Inside here, what I will do is to do route, then method, because this form is going to handle for login and also for registration. So here I'm going to create an arrow function. Inside my arrow function, let's import this const, but what I'm using is username, so I'm going to change this one to be username instead of email. Set username. So another thing I will have to import here is the const loading, just the loading const. Let's say loading then set loading. We're going to use state, and for this one I'm going to set it to be false. Okay, I'm also going to set the one for error, so const error, set error, then use state to be null. Then also when we have a success, I also want to set the one for const success, simple like this, set success, or use state also null. This one handles for error, while this one handles for success. I think that's all I need to do here. Now I'm going to create a const that's going to handle our submit. Const for our handle submit, we are going to use async. Instead of E, I want to use event. It doesn't matter, you can do the same thing and use E. I prefer just writing it as event. It's the same thing, it's just a parameter. Okay, I'm setting event.prevent default, then set loading to be true, set error null, then set success null. So the first thing I'm going to do in this place, let me close this down first so that, yeah, we can just be doing everything inside here. So the first thing, let's do try. For the try, we'll set console response. Okay, so inside this place, we are doing our, but this method, I don't like the way it's handling it here. So I'm going to change this to be api.post, then route, comma, then username, comma, then password, comma, perfecto. We are using await. So the first thing I'm going to do is to do if our method is equals to login, local storage set item access token rest.data.access, but not access token, then rest.data.refresh. Navigate back to home, not dashboard. Once that happens, windows.location.reload happen. Else for our registration, we'll set success, registration successful, please log in. Then we'll set a timeout. Inside my timeout, let me use arrow function instead. Inside this function, I'm going to use navigate to navigate back to home, login or home. If there is a success, then I don't even need to refresh this. So what I'm going to do is close this here, but inside here, I'm going to set a timeout of 2 seconds. Within the 2 seconds, we'll be redirected back to login. Okay, so now let's catch some errors. Come down here. For our catch, I'm going to do console.error, come down. So what I'm going to do here now is to do if error.response, initialize this so that inside this place I'm going to set another if error.response that status equals to, let's set 400, right? What I want to happen is that I want to set error invalid credentials, not invalid password, credentials first. Okay, so that inside this one I will not have like an else if error dot is 400, and we'll set another error. Email already exists, but I'm using only username, so username is what should be here. And this one, I can change this one to be 401, not 400. Yeah, the one that checks for a user already exists is 400. Email already exists, so you just know. So that here, what I would then do is else, instead of doing else if again, inside this else, I will do set error, something went wrong, please try again. When I now come below here, I will do else if. For my else if, error dot request, close this up, and inside this one I will set error, network error. Okay, thereafter else, something went wrong, please try again. Okay, while all this is done, I can have a finally here. I will go ahead and set loading to be false. When I'm done with all of this, let's come down and handle the one for login. I want to handle the one for Google login. In this instance, what I'm just going to use is to set our HTTP that's going to connect to that. So I'm going to call this const Google login. And inside here, I'm going to use an arrow function. Okay, just very simple function I'm setting up. I will do window.location, then .href, then inside here I'm gonna set our login callback. The login callback is //localhost. Then we are having 8,000. So normally this callback I'm setting up is the one I set up in my Google Cloud where I got my OAuth settings. If you want to see a video, I'm not going to show a video on how to generate your client ID and also your secret key for your OAuth authentication using Google, because I have done that in previous videos. I'm going to also attach a link of that video where I set up a normal Google social authentication using OAuth just for a normal web application that is not built with React. So you will see how I managed to set up the Google Cloud of my OAuth to generate the credentials needed, where I added this particular callback, which is not this one, but you can watch that video to give you an idea, because after here you're going to be seeing some of other logic I'm going to be doing, so I'm not going to be showing that aspect of that video. So here /Google, but this one is just the one that's going to direct us, because when we are redirected to this page, our callback works with this one to understand what is going on. Then it will see our client ID and secret key and do whatever you want to do with it. So yeah, just wanted to explain that before I continue with what I'm doing. Okay, so handle Google login and that. So what I will do here now is to set up our form. Return inside it, we'll do div class name, let's call it form container. I just wanted to close this. Okay, so what's going to happen here now is I'm going to set our loading inside this form, and to set our loading I'm going to do loading inside here. I will do create another div class. This one is going to be loading indicator, not loading spinner, loading indicator. So inside this div, what I'm going to have is, let's set for error span class name, error message, close this span, another div here. So for this one we can call it spinner. Okay, so cross check the loading and make sure everything looks good. Loading here, calling on the loading, then setting it as loading indicator, then error span, error message, error, close our span, then div spinner. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, if it is not loading, come down here. If it's not loading, so what happens, we'll have the form. Let's just paste this here and see what and what is there. If there are some mistakes, I'll go ahead and change them. So what we'll have here is, let me just do it from scratch for you guys. What we are meant to have here is on submit. So for the on submit, we'll set handle submit. Then I'm also going to set class name to be form. Close this up. Inside our form, I will have a h2. For my h2, I'm going to have a situation there that needs to be addressed. I'm going to set method. For the method, check if it is equals to register. If it is equal to register, I want it to show me register. If not, then just show me login. I guess the next thing that will be login. Okay, close this up. The next one is to check for the error. So for the error, I'm going to do error, add a div. Inside the div, I'm going to add a class name. We'll call it error message. Then error message. You don't need to have this. You can just leave it as error this way. Okay, so now let's also do the next one for success. Okay, for success, the same thing, just success message. All right, now the next div I'm going to add inside is our form. It's going to be the one for our form group here, which is showing me this. But there are some changes I have to make. Form group, the name is correct. Now for the label, username correct. Then the inputs, we are using test username, ID username, value username. Okay, what I can do to make everything show properly, bring this one down to bring this on change and bring down the required. I can go ahead and duplicate this to handle the one for our password. Just make some changes. Change this one to be password. Then the ID and also the username should be password. Yeah, even the type too should be password. Also change the value to be password. On change E, then set password. Okay, then e.target the value required. Okay, so below we'll then add our button. So for the button, we'll have the type to be submit. Okay, so let's add a class name. For the class name, I'm going to add form-button. Close the button itself. Now inside this button, I'm going to add a method too. So the method, okay, I think it was showing me that. So if method is equals to, but let me use register. If method is equals to register, register, then this should be register. If not, it should be login, capital login. I'm going to now add another button for the Google sign in itself. Now I'm going to change this one type to be button. It's not going to be submit. Come up a little. So we are going to have Google button as the class name, but on the on click, I'm going to add the handle Google login. Okay. Now inside this one, I'm going to add the image. For our image, the source is going to be Google. Yep. Just like that. We can add auth to be Google icon. Also add a class name that will help us make changes to the Google icon. Okay, now let's add a method. For the method, we are going to have the same logic we did. If method is equals to register, then register with, but this one I'm going to change it to be register with Google. If not, let it be login with Google. Okay, so there is one more thing I'm going to add, just the one for the already have an account or don't have an account. So that one I'm also going to use a method. Let me see if that's what it was showing. Okay, yeah, so let's look at what it's showing me. Method equal to login, don't have an account, but I want to have class name here. The class name is going to be Togo test, don't have an account, and instead of I'm using href, on click it changes, it takes me to register. I think what I can do is add a class name here. I'm just going to call it Togo underscore link. Nope, Togo dash link. Copy this class name, paste this for, bring the span down. Let's copy this one too, put it for here. But now we have to close this. Okay, looks like our form is set up. So what I can do is come here and do export, then default auth form. Let's open up and see. Nothing is going to happen yet because we have not connected this. There might be some mistakes, so we can cross check or just move ahead. It's getting kind of messy. It's expected when you are building a project of the caliber of what I'm building. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is to set up an auth page that's going to handle the way we use this our auth form. So I'm going to come to our pages here and create a new file and call it auth page.jss. And what I'm going to do here is, as usual, I will import use state from React, then also import use effect because I'll be needing both. So that here what I will do is import the auth form, then const auth page, we'll set it to be equals to an initial method. For this initial method, what I'm gonna do in essence is that I will do const method, set our method, then I will set it to use state, but inside here we are going to use the initial method. Come inside and use the use effect. For the use effect, I'm going to use an arrow function. Let's set the method to, okay, let's correct this now that I'm dealing with it. This should be initial, not initial. Initial. Okay, so that below here we'll put comma, initial method, then we'll close this. We'll go ahead and define the routes for login and for sign up. What I want to happen is, in essence, I want it to access the API/token endpoint we have in our front end, right? If it is register, it will access the API, then /user, then /register. Well, close this as well. The same way we'll close that one. Those are the two methods. Once this is done, I want it to return for me the auth form. But inside is my div. I'm gonna set a class name. A class name. Call it the. Okay, no need for the class name. Auth form, then route, then method. Thereafter, come below, we will export the default. Now with this setup, we'll come to our app.js. Let's import the auth page. We'll import the auth page. Okay, so that here we can add it under the route. So I'm going to come back to this. I just want to see if this is working first. There's a way I'm going to handle this. Okay, so it's working. We can see the form showing, but things might not really work as I want it to work. So what I'm going to do right now is not working properly. Something is definitely wrong. Let's go back to the auth page because yeah, the auth form. So the way I'm handling the method, let's see. Okay, so what we are going to do now before we continue, I'm going to create another file for our auth that's going to check when we authenticated and handle how we submit and also handle how we get protected. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to set up another file for our authentication. So I'm going to create another file called auth.js, which will be the one that we are going to use to authenticate and have access when we have logged in or registered an account. And to do that, I have already set up the one for API.js and the token.js, connecting the backend together. Now I'm going to come down here again in our source and create a new file, call it auth.js. I'm going to try and make this fast as possible. Once I'm done here, I'm going to come back to this our auth form so we can arrange it properly to sync, because at the moment some things are missing, because normally you're meant to see the login and the register, but because of the way I'm handling it with this auth page, I want to use the initial method to handle everything. So what I'm going to do in this auth.js is, first of all, I will import useState again, import use state from React, then also use effect. Okay, the next thing I will need is the JWT token or JWT decode that's going to decode our JWT token. So the JWT decode, I'm going to import it from JWT dash decode. Then we'll import the API, import API from api.js. We'll also import the tokens. I did not import this properly. Okay, we'll import the tokens. So the first one we'll import is the access. Then I will import refresh, also import the Google. Now we'll just do export const. I'm going to export use authentication arrow function, right? So what I'm going to do here is I will set const is authorized. You can use is authenticated, but I prefer using is authorized. Then I will set it to be set is authorized. Then we'll use state. We'll set it to be false for now. Okay. Thereafter, we'll use effect. For the use effect, we use arrow function. So what is going to happen is that inside this function, I'm going to set const auth using async, colon the async function. So I will do const token equals to local storage dot get item access token. We'll also do for the const Google access token equals to local storage get item access token. Just like that, we are getting everything from the local storage. You can add console.log to see if it's working. If we are able to get, you can just get the access token, set token here. Let me just use this way, or let me even use everything as capital data. Let me use this. We can do the same for the Google. Okay, so what I will do is to check if token, then I will do console decoded. Let me use decoded, then JWT decode token. Then I will set the token expiration equals to, before this one, we'll set it to be decoded.expire, just like that. I will then set the const for now, which can be seen as the current date. We'll use date.now, but I will divide this by 1000. If token expiration is greater than now, then await refresh token. We are going to set this refresh token below. That's why it's showing, because it's not defined yet. Then else we'll set is authorized to be equals to true. We'll do else if for the Google access token. Set a const is Google access. Okay, let me set is Google token, and I'm going to set it to be await validate Google token, then Google access token. When we do that, I will do if is Google token valid, and I will set is authorized to true, set is authorized to false. Then we'll do else here, set is authorized to false. So if I come down here, what I will do is I will set auth, then auth.catch. I'm going to use arrow function here. I will set is authorized to be false. So what I will do here, I'll put comma. Okay, so auth.catch, then we'll set is authorized to be false. So that inside here, I'm going to set an empty list, just like that. Leave it that way. Let's come down. For here, what I'm going to do for this refresh token is very simple. Then I'll use try. Let's use try first. For the try, for my try, I'm going to do const res equals to await, then API dot post. Our API endpoint is /API, then /token /refresh. Close it up, put comma here. Const will do refresh token. Just refresh is fine because that's the way I'm storing it in my local storage, comma. Should be comma or dot. So what I'm going to do is do if res.status is equals to 200. I want to get the local storage set item, but instead of refresh token here, what I have to set here is access token. Move all this. Then res.data, then dot access, close. Thereafter you set authorize to true, else. First of all, let's correct this. It should be async this way. Once we set the authorize equals to do, then else I will set authorize equals to false, then we'll catch error. For the error, I can just do, before I even set this, let's do console error refreshing token. Yeah, error. So we are done with the one for the refresh token. The next one I'm going to now set is the one that's going to validate our Google token. And to do that, I will use const again. Do const validate Google token. You're also going to use async. Set it to be Google access token. Use try. Let's see what this return with API.post API. For the endpoint here, what I'm using is API slash, I think is Google slash validate underscore token. Access token, no need to access token, just like that. Access token, then Google access token. But I'm going to set headers. The way it is handling it here is not the way I'm going to handle it. So let's remove everything here. Come down here. Immediately this is opened. I want to put comma here. Open another one and add headers. Content type is application slash JSON. Good. Add comma, so that below I will do console.log validation token, or just validation response. But I'm gonna comma here and do rest.data. Close this. Thereafter we will return the rest.data.valid. Ensure this particular response.data.valid matches with this. Hold on, let me show you. It has to match with the backend. The way I set up the views, it is a must it matches. If not, it's not going to do the work you want it to do. Yeah, you see the way I set this valid here. Return JSON response. This key valid. Ensure it matches with this response.data.valid you're setting. If you're using a different key in your view, make sure you change it to that. If not, you'll have issue. So first of all, let's close this, or let's try and catch this error here. Error console.log, error validating Google token, then return false. Looks good to me. Let's come below, then set up the logout, const logout arrow function. For the const logout, we'll set local storage, remove item, access token. I don't need anything with the refresh. If you don't have the access, there's nothing to do with the refresh. Window.href, reload, return is authorized, comma, then logout, validate. So this should be validate Google. Let me cross check and see. Validate Google. That's not what we have here. This has 3 O's, which it shouldn't. Okay, let's make sure there's no other error in this code, because sometimes oversights, no matter how much you try to avoid them, they can put you in serious delay. Cross check the code one after the other. Okay, so for this one, I'm meant to use access, not to refresh. The response.data.access is what I'm using there. I hope there's no other error. Set is authorized equals to true, then else set is authorized equals to false. Catch error, refreshing token error, then set validate Google token async Okay, we are using Google validate token. Okay, let's close this endpoint here. Very important. Access token, Google access token, headers, content type, application JSON, console.error, validate, third response res.data. Okay, so let's save this up. Now let's come back to our component and create the auth access file that's going to check if we are authenticated and redirect us back to home anytime we want to access, log in, or register whenever we are currently being authenticated. This auth access is going to help us to check if we are currently logged in and redirect us back to home, and also remove the login and register button and only show the logout button. So what I'm going to do for this one is to set this to auth access.jss, and inside here I'm going to import React from React. We also need to import navigate from React router. Then we'll import, we just created the auth we just created. We'll have to import it and use it here. So we'll import the use authentication from auth. Here I will create a function. Let me call it protected route. This will be children. Inside here const is authorized. We'll use authentication just this way, is authorized. The first thing I'm going to do is to do if is authorized is equals to null. Just return a loading return. We just add a div, no need for class name, just add loading. The next if I'm going to do is to say if is authorized, give me window dot location dot path name. I say our path name for login, register. Let's close this, return navigate to, then return children. Let's export this, protected route, register, login. Let's go back to our app.js. I need to import the auth. Import use authentication from auth. We also have to import, I think that's all, the only thing I need here. I have already imported navigate. We are going to use the navigator imported right now. If I come inside this my function here, I'm going to create a const. For this const, I will set it to be is authorized. Then we'll use authentication. Then I will add the protected route. How am I going to add that? I will come down and create another const, our login, and I'm going to change this, our register auth page here, and the one for login, I'll just put them inside this protected route. I'm going to call it protected login. Let's do the one for login first. Side here, arrow function, I will return is authorized, navigate, close this up. What I will do here now is set my auth page, and inside this one I'm going to add the initial method to be login. Let's do another one for register, the same pattern, navigate to, so that whenever you want to access the login or register and you're already authenticated, it's going to redirect you back to the home page because you're currently authenticated. With this pattern now, what I can do is that in my routes here, I'm going to remove this, then I'll add a route for login. Let's add it to be login. Then for the elements, I'm going to set it to be equals to protected login. So let's do the next one for register as well. Now with this setup, we can try to see if we can access the login and the register route. But before we do that, let's come back here. Just make sure the routes are correct before we try to access it. Okay, see. Okay. But if we try to log in now, will it work? Okay, let's try to. We had an account. What's the name? Can't remember. Let's just try to create a. Okay, I think it's Joshi I used. So let's try Joshi and see if our login is working. Login. Something went wrong. We can try to inspect and see what is showing us. Failed to load server. The server responded with a 404. Okay, 404. Access token null. Google access token null. Okay, so something is definitely wrong. And if we come back here, let's look at our and see method not allowed. Something is definitely wrong because normally we're able to generate this and but we couldn't log in because probably something is wrong with the way we are handling. So let's go back to the auth form and see what we have done there. Our routes are correct here. You know what, let's try to register a fresh account. Already in register. So if I come to register, I can do U 2 3. Something went wrong. Okay, so the problem is somewhere around our form. Let's open up method not allowed. Okay, so if we go to our views, how are we handling? Okay, let me even correct this now that I'm seeing it. This one is not even, is a list of the problem I'm having. Because in my URS, the refresh token I'm using is the token refresh. Okay, so which is a normal token from the simple JWT views. Let's come to our form and make sure there are no issues that could be affecting our login from working. So maybe what I will try first, maybe I should, the username is test ID. Okay, so let's remove this name that I'm putting here first. Let's see if that's the issue. Sometimes small issues like this can be a big problem. Save. Let's go back and try to register again. Something went wrong. Okay, let's use inspect and see what we have there. Azure's error, failed to load resource. Okay, that means our front end and back end is not yet interacting because of the error message I'm seeing here. So let's go back here. Nothing is wrong. Okay, as you can see from our terminal here, there's no interaction from our front end. The auth page is not interacting with the backend side, because if it was interacting, we would have seen the endpoints. Yeah, okay, so let's look at our views. Okay, let me open up the environment variable and see the way I'm handling the backend URL, see if there's any issue there. Okay. Oh, okay, so this quote here, I shouldn't have it. This is probably the reason why I was not able to connect. Okay, save, and let's come back, refresh this, and okay, so let's try to log in now. Register. Boom, username already exists. There's a connection now. As you can see, it's showing a post request 400 bad request because the username already exists. So let's try to log in here. Log in. All right, so we have been able to log in, but because I have not set up my auth properly, you can see the access token here. In my navbar, it is not seeing the authentication process going on. I have not set the is authorized. I have to go back and set that so that we will not be seeing the register and login buttons when we are authenticated. So we have set up this auth access, the protected route. Now we have to put it in work in our navbar.js under this our navbar menu right here. But before that, I have to import the use authentication. So let's scroll up here. I will do import use authentication from .auth.js. So here I'll set const is authorized, set logout. Further, we'll set it to be equals to use authentication. I don't need to have this true here. Remove that. Just initialize the function without no parameters. Set const handle logout here equals to arrow function. Okay. Inside this handle logout, I will call the logout function. Now, you know this logout function, we set it up in our use authentication. If we are looking at what I was doing there, that was where I set that function up. So in our navbar menu here now, I'm going to handle our is authorized to note our navbar so that it will handle the way the buttons show up whenever a user is authenticated. Set is authorized, then set this way. Let me move out this logout, put it inside here, paste it. Then for this login and register, I'm going to come below. We are going to also handle for that. And inside here, I'm going to add the onClick. For the onClick, I'm going to set it to be handle logout. Okay. So inside here, then quote, so that here I'll add another one for the link for login. I'm going to move the login and the register inside here. Add this quote, come here, move out this, cut them out, paste. Okay, so this looks good. Save. Once we save this now, let's go back and see. As you can see, the logout is the only button showing because we are currently authenticated. All right, let me try to access login. As you can see, it redirected me back to home. Even if I want to access the one for register, it also redirected me back to home. So let's log out. We are also able to log out. Now we have set up the authentication for normal login, handling registration. Okay, let me just create a new account. Let's call it YouTube. Then password 123 register. registration successful. Please log in. We are redirected to login. Then let's go ahead and register. Login with this YouTube password. Login. Okay, all right, so you can see we can register login with our normal authentication, which is one of the first part of the video. Now the next one we are going to be handling is the one for our Google authentication, and to do that we have to add our Google authentication details in our admin. So I'm going to create a super user here, terminate, then python manage.py create super user, enter. Okay, admin as username. Then we'll put in admin.admin. Okay, admin@admin.com as email. Then password, just a simple password. Okay, the password didn't match. Let's put in the right one. Okay, yeah, just continue, just for testing purpose. Clear. Let's run server again. Now we are going to add the auth credentials. If you want to see how you can set up your auth credentials, I have made previous videos on that when I did Django or auth authentication process for normal applications that you built on Django without React. I captured how you can set up your Google OAuth credentials in your google.console.admin or something like that website from Google. I'm not going to show that process because that is not the scope of this video, but I'm going to add the link of that video in the description so you can go ahead and do that. So let me add, we have already set up the one for Google here, but we don't have the client ID and the secret key. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to show you guys how that at the end of this video, the client ID and the secret key is not going to be valid anymore. So let me copy that. Okay, so paste this here. Then let's also paste the one for the secret. Okay, so like I said, if you want to know how to get your client ID from Google, watch previous videos of how I did that. I'm going to add the link to the video in the description of this video. You can watch the process of how I got this client ID and secret key from Google. It's quite simple to set up. Just make sure you follow the process. Let's add the name here, Google. Go ahead and save. Okay, so we are done with this. Now we need to start setting up our Google authentication process. There are other things we'll have to set up to be able to log in. So I'm going to close my terminal here. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a Google redirect handler.jss. So what the Google redirect handler JSS will do for us is to extract token from our backend URL. It will also store the token in local storage using the imported constants. You know, in our token.js we have already set up that, and in our API.js we have configured how we are going to be. Okay, let me correct this error here. This is an error. That should be Google_access. Good that I'm seeing that now. It could have been a big problem if I didn't see that. Okay, so back to what I'm saying. For our Google redirect handler, we are going to set it up to also verify the token from our backend. I hope there's no other error here. Okay, save. Okay, close this. Let me also close the .env. We don't need the auth page again. Close that again. So here in our components, I'm going to open up the Google redirect handler, like I said, which will help us to verify our token from our backend and also extract the token from our URL to handle our callback and set our token in our front end to enable authentication from Google. So in our views, I have already set up a token validate function. I think it's below here. Come down. If you notice in this I've already set up the Google login callback. This particular function is going to help us to handle all that. It's going to extract our token, create a token for us, then pull up that token and send it back to our front end. So I hope, let's cross check. Okay, so from here, this redirect, we're also going to handle the ones that in a situation whereby there is no callback social token, there's no token, we are going to be redirected with a callback error showing there's no social token. So in our components here, I'm going to quickly set up the redirect handler.jss. So I'm going to call it Google redirect handler.jss. Okay, so inside here, the first thing we are going to do is to import use effect from React. We'll also import use navigate from the React router DOM. We'll also import Axios from Axios, which is going to help us to connect our backend and our frontend together. Lastly, we will import the Google access token from our token.js. Google access token. Oops, this is wrong. Import it properly. Let's cross check our token.js. Okay, yeah, Google access token, everything looks correct there. Okay, close. Let's come back here. Import Google access token. Okay, from token. Now let's start setting up the function, our redirect Google auth function. And inside this function, I'm going to first of all set our navigate. So I'm going to set const navigate equals to use navigate. Okay, equals to use navigate. Okay, the next thing I will use effect. First of all, let's set up the use effect first. Okay, we're going to set it as an arrow function. Okay, no need for that redirect. Inside the function first, I will do console.log redirect handler mounted successfully. That's what I'm going to set inside this place, so that in our process of debugging, we can even see if this function is being mounted successfully. Get what I'm saying? So console.log, nope, not redirecting, call it redirect handler. It's called mounted successfully. First thing first, we will extract the token from our URL, and to extract that, I'm going to do const query params. That's query parameters. Then I will set it to be equals to new URL search parameters. New URL search parameters. And inside here, I will do window.location.search. Thereafter, I will set my access token const. Come back here to const access token equals to query parameters dot get, not access token. Remove this. Inside it, will set the access token. Thereafter, we also set another console.log to pull up the query parameters for me. Okay, set it to be query parameters. Set it to window.location.search. Window.location.search. Okay, let's put comma here. Okay, comma. Okay, so I'll first of all do if access token, then console.log access token found. Okay, after this, let's then go ahead to store the token in local storage using the imported constants. You remember we imported the Google access token here, so we are now going to set that to our local storage using the imported instance we have created. So local storage.set item access, nope, no, it should be Google access. I don't even need to, yeah, let's call it direct Google access token, comma, then access token. Okay, thereafter we will verify the token with your backend. You can decide to ignore this, but I always like to verify my token to be on the safe side, and to do that we are going to use Axios to be able to pull that up. Okay, Axios.default, then .headers, then .common. Okay, set authorization. Nope, this is not the way I want to. I want to use backtick to set the bearer. So use backtick, then bearer. Yep, access token. All right. The next is to use Axios.get. We'll get the URL of our backend for the auth user details. We want to pull up the auth user details just for testing what is going on to see if we have access to the auth user. That was why I created the auth user details. So for here, I'm going to set http/localhost, then 8000/API, then /auth/user. Close there. Then response arrow function. Response first, response console.log user data, comma, then response.data. Okay, thereafter navigate back to home or another page, but for me I'm going to redirect back to home because we don't have other pages yet, so let's just redirect back to home. Okay, so once we are done with this, the next thing is to now catch an error, and for our catch, let's use arrow function. I would like to set the console to be console.log, sorry, console.error, not console.log. Set here to be error, verifying token. Okay, then I will do error.response, not just response.message. I just want to use error.response, then error.response.data.response.data, then error.message. Also, when we do this, what I'm going to do is to redirect back to home, sorry, to login. That means something is wrong, so we should not be redirected back to home. Our login should be redirected back to. Next, after the navigate login, is to set our navigate below. So here, I'm going to do else console.log no token found. Okay, let's add in this URL, or just in URL. Okay, navigate back to the login. Let me remove this bracket here. Set our navigate here. No need for login, just set navigate, close it. Okay, so that below we need to have one more. Our function is not yet closed. Okay, let me cut this off. Put it down. It should follow this if as what it's for. So that here, we will now move this our navigate to here. Okay, remove the comma there, then bring this back, space. All right, so come down, do return div, set this one to be login, okay, with dash dash dash. Come down and let's export this our GoGo redirect handler. Default redirect GoGo auth. We are done with this setup. Okay, let me bring it up so you guys can see properly. All right, so this particular function is ready. Everything looks good, but let's cross check properly and make sure there's no error here. Okay, remember the code is going to be available on GitHub. I'm going to make it available for you guys because I'm nice like that. I'm not just going to teach you something without sharing a source code with you. Okay, so let's go to, okay, there's nothing we need to do in our auth form. In our auth.js, cross check and make sure everything looks good here. Everything looks good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is let's go back to our browser and click on login. Register with Google. You're about to sign in using a third-party account from Google. Continue. Okay, access blocked, authorization failed. The auth client was not found. If you're a developer of this app, see error details, error 401 invalid client. Okay, probably because my client details is wrong, but let's cross check and see in our, okay, I don't know, but I just want to try to run the migration again. I don't know if that's the cause of this problem. I doubt, but I just want to, try it. That's because I just added it. I don't know, is it if he wants to, if not, then we'll go back to the Google admin and check the credentials I added there and see if it's correct. I'll cross check with what I have. Okay, there's no migration to apply. Clear. Then run server again. So what we're going to do is in our Google details here, let me see. Okay, the client ID I have here and the secret key is wrong. The two I have here should be for one, but I added client and secret together. So I'm going to remove them and re-add them again. Let me remove this, add the correct one. So let's also do the same for the secret key. Save. I don't need to be worried because at the end of the day, this is not going to be available. The secret and client will be dead when this video will be alive. Let's try to register now with Google again. You're about to sign in. Continue. Okay, so you can see choose an account to continue to unwork, and the email I want to continue with is this. Okay, unwork is the name of the app, the way I set it up from Google credentials. So if I click here, it will ask me to sign into Unwork, blah, blah, blah. By continuing, Google will share your name, email, blah, blah, blah. See Unwork, blah, 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 continue. So it's redirecting me back to this page because something is wrong. Our front end and our back end is not connecting together. I need to go back to the settings.py and check the way I'm handling the callback redirect URL that is meant to redirect us to our front end. Let's go to settings.py. Something is definitely wrong. Settings.py, scroll down. What do we have here? Okay, so in our login redirect, the redirect spelling is wrong. Redirect is not ROIDE. Okay, so I'm going to change this. Should be ROE, then DI. Now let's save this, come back and refresh. Okay, let's just start the whole authentication process again. Continue. Okay, we have been able to sign in. As you can see, the callback is working, but because of the way I handle the flow, it's showing me this. So I'm just going to go back home and we'll start the whole process again. Register with Google, continue. But now, okay, failed error at callback, unsupported lookup providers for foreign key. Okay, another error. Let's go to our views.py. Okay, yeah, so the account providers here, this should not even be S, it should be provider because it's not more than one. It's only one provider that I'm handling with there. So let's come and see here. Where is it? Okay, here. Let's remove the S, save. Let's come back and refresh. All right, so we are now being redirected here, but no Google token is found. That means our token is not working yet. Something is wrong. Let's inspect and see. Console. Okay, Google access token null. Our tokens are null, in fact. So let's check and see if there's any problem in this function. I can't really see anything here, but let's cross check carefully. Okay, let me see in our terminal. we can see the social account for user Apulon, but no Google token found for user Apulon. Okay, so that means it's not even storing our token yet. Something is wrong from our settings. Social account. Oops, I added 3 C's here instead of 2 C's for the account. That's probably why our social account store tokens is not storing in our backend admin for this particular user that I just added. So if I try to register again, let's go to register with Google, then continue. Okay, so now you can see here we have the access token. You can see the access token here, but let's inspect and see what is wrong, why our token is not being added. Okay, everything is still null. Our backend is working properly, likewise our front end, but now something is wrong with our front end connection. The problem is this Google redirect handler. I have not added it to my app.js. I have not added it to the route. It's not knowing what to do with the access token it is receiving in the front end. That is why we are having the issue. Let's add this Google redirect handler there, and to add it inside our route, what I'm going to do is import the Google redirect handler to our app.js. So we'll come down in our route. I can add it below or even above. Let's just add it above here. Doesn't matter anywhere you place it. Now for the path, I'm going to change this to be callback, login / callback. We don't need the Google, just these two directly. It's okay. Let's go ahead, save. Come back to our home. Boom, as you can see, we have our tokens being found, but our validate token is not working yet. Something is wrong because it is meant to see that this authentication has been authenticated, because our Google access token, we can see it in our local storage, but it's not seeing that even our access token. So something is definitely wrong from the way we are handling our Google validate. You have to really be sure and make sure there's no issue. So we'll go back here. In our auth.js, we have already set up the validate Google token, but let's cross check and make sure there's no issue. Const rest await API, then access token. We set the headers application/JSON. Okay, everything looks good here. Everything looks good. Okay, so let's open up our urls.py to make sure that the way we are handling the endpoint here, API/Google/validate, is the same way with this ending slash. That is the same way we have in our endpoint in urls.py. Yeah, so you can see there's no ending slash here. I'm going to add ending slash. Boom. Okay, save. Let's go back and see. Okay, let's refresh. Yeah, so our logout is now showing. You can see that the Google token is valid, is set to true, and our buttons for login and registration has disappeared because there is an authorization process happening in our application. So guys, wasn't that easy to set up the social auth authentication with React and Django, and also the normal authentication with React and Django? I think that was easy for me. It might not sound easy to you because you're in a learning phase, but if you practice and get your hands dirty with what I have built here, you will be a guru and you will get familiarized with this. So let's try login with a normal account. We log out. Let's also try to log in with Google. Continue. Okay, so our logout is still showing. Everything working fine. So this code is going to be available on my GitHub. I'm not going to teach you something that I'm not going to show you. As you can see, you can't even access the... So just make sure you play around with it. This series, like I said, is going to capture a whole lot of things. In the next tutorial, I'm going to be then adding products to this particular application. Likewise, add a cart. We can also add maybe a profile page, since we now have an authentication, so that when a user signs in, instead of redirecting back the user to the home, the user will be redirected back to the profiles page, where the user can see so many other details in his profile, like payments, pending transactions or whatever. But this tech shop application, I'm going to build it to a full-fledged e-commerce application that sells gadgets. As you can see, our header is not looking bad. I took my time to provide a powerful. Guys, make sure that you get your hands dirty with this code, and please, if this video was helpful, remember to subscribe, like, drop your comments. If you have any questions, I'm going to answer you, and please give me a thumbs up. If possible, if you have any nice thing to say, if this video was helpful, you can drop it in the comment section. so that I can know that my video is helping people out there. Because the reason why I even went to do this video was there is no much resources on how you can handle social account authentication with Django and React available on YouTube. That's why I took my time to set up one with Google here. As you can see, it's not really that difficult to set up, but it's just something you can do if you follow the process. And I have made that possible. As you can see, we are logging in with our Google account, going smoothly, all thanks to the Django OAuth library, making it easy for us to use the library to set that up. And yeah, so guys, we have come to the end of the video. Like I said, please subscribe if this video was helpful. I would like to hear from you. And till we meet again, is bye bye for now. I remain your humble servant, Joshi Vibe.